9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Alright, there it is. So I've built it, and I was going to put it off one tap until I'd finished Phantom, but for people that tune in regularly, as you know, regularly, as if, for people that have a look in every now and again, you know that I'm stuck with Phantom at the minute because I'm waiting for Decals. So while I'm waiting for Decals, I cracked that off, and when I say cracked it off, if you have a look a couple of videos back, you'll see that I did a little bit of an inbox review, not much. I do like to see what it's like after it's been built more than sort of what it is in the box, because bits of plastic in a box, unless it's a, you know, fantastic manufacturer, a great manufacturer we know and respect, and we do respect Revell, but obviously, but people have upped the game, haven't they, over the last couple of years, and your Tamiya's and your Asagawas, especially the latest releases, GWH, that kind of thing, just absolutely blow your mind. So when you're going back old school, down to a 1980s Revell level 5, open brackets, 3/4, close brackets, you've got to make it fit. So that's what we have to do. First shout out anyway, while I remember, to Bob in Illinois. Bob in Illinois. Do you know what, it's really funny, because when I talk to lads at work, and there's a couple of them subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I say, oh mate, you've had some comments on, who's Bob in Illinois? And I go, I've got absolutely no idea, but appreciates what I do, appreciates the work that I put in, and leaves me comments. And I think it's only fair that, you know, over the next couple of videos I sort of acknowledge those people, because the people that tune in regularly, like that, deserve a mention, especially when they give me great feedback. It really sort of juices me up a little bit. And Bob from Illinois, thank you very much for your wonderful comments, mate. Really, really appreciate it. And other one is Mark Sayers, and I can remember them names because I flick through my comments quite regularly. So back to business. So I chose this, didn't I? I got it off Paul from Liverpool, the Whirl. And if you remember on my last video, number one, I decided that it weren't a level 5 because it were only 128 parts, which falls into the level 4 category. Level 4, just level 4, because anything up to 100 is a level 3, and 128 parts, regardless of how big it is a level 3. So this is sort of like just straight by, if you know what I mean. And anything over 150 is a level 5. So let's just clarify that. So it's a Revell level 4 CH-53 GS/G, and I said last time that there must be 2 versions. And if you remember, I did mention colour call out, and you can see that this one is grey. I also talked about the amount of blacked out parts that there were, and I found a Jeep and a big gun, didn't I? And I was like, oh, you know, what's them? I'm going to do them first. I didn't, because I wanted to crack on with Bird. Okay, so as I step through, I'm going to talk through. I've got to try and remember the photos that I took in the sequence that I took, which is over like 2 weeks in, so I might get them wrong, but I'll try and cover all my bases. What we'll suggest is, let's say that you've got this kit in the stash, or you've got it on your radar, and like most builders, you know, when you get a kit or you've got a kit, first thing you do, or straight onto YouTube, isn't it? And you're typing it in and you're thinking, right, I wonder if anybody's done a build video, you know, different camera angles and one thing and another, or if anybody's got anything to say about this particular subject. So now I've built it, obviously I'm more than qualified to tell you what it's like. So we started, God, I've got to stop doing that. You know, it's one of my biggest bugbears. When YouTubers say we, it's not we, it's you. So it's dealing fact. So I started with the seats, which, if you remember, were a 1, 2, 3, 4 part affair, and very basic, no problems, moulded in seat belts. So that's what you're going to get in the kit, and a little bit of a joystick on the side. Different colours to paint them in, but you know, fill your boots. Up to level 4. Stage 5 then was the floor pan. Now, I suppose I can put my pictures up here tonight, can't I? Today being Wednesday, 5th of October 2022. I have to do that because, you know, when I'm looking back and I think, chuffing hell, how long is it since I built that kit? And actually I'm surprised myself, so I want to start and put date on as well. So stage 5, what floor pan, which you can't see. Obviously you can, I've got a side on view there, and I'm hoping that you can see the ramp that's going down. And unless you're shining a torch in there, you've absolutely no chance. Now, you know, there's people out there who will go to the nth degree on detailing that. That's absolutely fine. That's what you enjoy. You're setting yourself those little mini challenges. If it's in the box, it's going on. That's my motto. And I did end up detailing it. I did it a couple of different colours. And same as I said with office as well, it had got a big window on it, so if you needed to put some detail into that office because you can see everything, and you know, you've got a fair bit of glaze in there with no bleed on. Good old masking tape, isn't it? Section 6 were your sort of foot controls, and then section 7 were putting it all together. So at this point, that's what I did. So I've done the chairs, I've done the console, the rudders, the pedals. You attach all that to your floor pan, and I've actually written number 1 to 7 okay. So it must be alright. So you're not going to get any great dramas with first sort of page. On to page 2, stage 8, drilling your holes out. And again, if you remember, 2 versions, a GS and a GS. A G and a GS. But later on in video, I sort of like started saying, oh, what's this all about? A GS Plus. And I think at that point, I'd already beat myself up enough to say, this is going to be a G. This is going to be a G. GS Plus. Because that's what it turned out to be. So let's drill the holes. Let's drill the holes. I drilled some holes. God above. And then stage 9 was putting your internal glazing in. And I wrote, not the best, but hey ho. I mean, I suppose in grand scheme of things, the glazing's got to go in from inside. And I will be absolutely honest, I have had a window pop out on that side, which is up there. So somehow I think I'm going to have to get my big stick, my big skewer with a little bit of blue tack on end, and sort of put it up arse end, hopefully feed it in, and then while I'm holding it with that hand, I've got to put a dab of glue on. Challenging. So putting your window in and your front landing gear sort of housing, it's just a bit of block of plastic. And then number 10 is putting the side into the side of that fuselage. Stage 11 is replicating that and putting your drive pin in for your rotor blades. Stage 12, and I found no drivers so far. What I use that micro crystal clear. Is that what you use for glue? And I'll tell you what happened. I'm jumping in front of myself. So basically, you know, when you put them in, and that it's only a white PVA glue, isn't it? But you know, and it's sort of like supposed to set solid. But I must admit, sat here now, I've never really had any trust in that glue. But I have used a bit of Tet in the past, Tamiya Extra Thin, and it always fogs the canopies. So I tend to stay away from that now. Stage 12, then I put the little bit of glazing into the ramp door. And then 13 is putting the pin in. Have I got it on camera? I think, do I need to move it up a touch? He's putting the pin in for the rear rotor. Well, obviously that sort of comes through. And then putting the two sides together with the ramp door. Now this area here at the front, I've written the join needs work. I don't know whether it's because it's an old kit, but the two curves that come up, you know, in sort of that sort of half moon sort of shape, it's like a crescent, isn't it? Well, the two halves that come together, they're not the best. Look, when I say not the best, you know, with a little bit of filler and a bit of sanding stick and some nice time and effort, which I put in, I ain't got no seam down middle of mine, because that's what I like to do. And I got rid of it, but it does need a little bit of work. Okay, so be prepared for that straight away. Whipping over. 14 was, where do you want your ramp? Are you having it open or closed or whatever? Section 15, 16, all same. Section 17 was the wheels and the undercarriage. And I'll tell you what, that is a significant difference, because a level 5 kit, the undercarriage would have been 1, 2, 3, including wheels, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 parts. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's very, very bland as anything. It's very plain. Okay, so you're not going to get any great shakes out of that. That's literally, you know, I mean, again, if you want to go to town on it and add wiring and stuff, but on this scale, on this particular subject, I felt no reason to do that. But that's not why you're here. You've got it in your stash, you're thinking about buying it. Is that undercarriage strut going to give you any trouble? No, it's not. None whatsoever. Stage 18 and 19 were scoring a few bits out of some plastic for these parts, which again was no great drama. And stage 20. Now on stage 20, when you've got your two fuselage sides together, if you remember on last video, I was scratching inside and saying, listen to this and that beautiful raised detail. Now, obviously, that raised detail is all the way down the body. On sanding, you're going to lose some of that. So you either need a riveting wheel or, well, you need to be really careful. Of which I am neither. Section 20 staying on. A little bit of a ball ache, really. This fairing here for your main undercarriage, you've got to put that on now, which includes putting your wheel in. I'm hoping you can see that because I can't see the camera now. It's putting your wheel in, which again, I spoke about it on the Hobby Boss, Tomcat, and other kits that don't quite come to mind. It's an I hate it. I absolutely hate it. That you've got to put it in a certain section, because notoriety, is that even a word, says I'm notorious for snapping things off. But touch wood, they didn't. Section 22, that's fitting your front canopy. Note to self. If you have got this kit and you start building it, if you feel inspired to build this kit, the one thing that I will say is, once you've got that floor pan in and your two sides together and your front sort of looks like this, get that glazing out and whack that on. Not with glue, dry fit it. Because it's an old kit and you have to forgive certain sort of areas, if you will, that aren't going to be an absolute cracking fit. And the glazing is one of them. I finished this build last night and I must have posted it on 20 Facebook forums, like post. Don't get me wrong, I don't post looking for thumbs up and love hearts. I post to show people what I've done, what can be achieved, and maybe somebody goes, chuffing hell yeah, I've got that in my stash, that's brilliant, I'm going to have a go. That's why I do it. I digress. Get that canopy and dry fit it on. Now, if you look head on at your front end and you come to put your front glazing on, mine it had a little bit of a wobble on it. One side it sort of fit and other side didn't. And again, I've said it past, right, well, you get the better of two halves, don't you, and you sort of put it in the middle, which I did put it in the middle. However, there is still on the passenger side, absolutely gorgeous fit and really, really nice. But on the driver's side, there's about, well, it's not even half a mil. It's less than half a mil. But you can tell, okay. I suppose the way that you would do that is you would splay that windscreen out a little bit. You know, you'd sort of, I'm not forcing it, obviously, but you'd splay it out as much as you could without damaging it. And I don't want to be damaging nothing. I don't want to be having to get so far into a kit and I just want to, oh shit, and then you're on emails the night to Revell and then you're waiting 6 weeks. Sod that. Right, so there's certain things that I live with, and you know, less than half a millimetre little step on that canopy is no drama for me. Section 23, you can leave that off. That's fitting this little part for your front door and the hook that goes in the middle underneath. Let me just rewind. Underneath a Phantom, underneath a Tornado, an A10, the Stuka, the Eurofighter, underneath, generally you've got a lot going off with pylons and detail and all that sort of stuff. On a helicopter, what you find is it's just a flat belly. And again, if it's not seen, does it need that much attention? So obviously I'd put my two sides together and then you sort of like, you don't glue it all the way down. What you're trying to do is manipulate that plastic. So you might glue it here at front end and you're sort of squeezing and prying and a tweezer in or a cocktail stick, and you're sort of, and what you're trying to do is you've got steps as you go further and further down the belly underneath. You're trying to eradicate those steps in the plastic, because even though it might be less than, you know, 0.1 of a mil, even 0.1 of a mil, when you're talking about filler and sanding, it's a job that you try to eradicate so that you don't have to do that. How did I fare with that? It's absolutely innate flat-bellied stuff. I really, really do. And I have got filler in mine, and I did have to sand it back. Is it 100% totally flat and flush? No, it's not. It's 95%. There's a couple of bits in there that I could have taken a little bit more time on. But for me, obviously, the top end is more important. 24 was building the your front undercarriage assembly. And 26, then you moved on to engines. And again, if you remember, the G and the GS version, one's got this particular style of rotor blade, one's got this particular style of engine, and etc, etc. And this is where I didn't screw up, because, you know, it's modelling, it's fun. Okay. So even though the entire sort of carcass is a helicopter, there's certain parts on it that are G, and there's certain bits on it that are GS. Because I just couldn't make my mind up. If you remember, I liked the crazy colour scheme of the G, but it didn't have any of this on down at bottom. But I'll make it a GS then. But the only colour that the GS one suggests in the book is green. And I've got a bit of a thing with grey stuff. Maybe it's because I'm old. I like grey Tornadoes, grey Phantoms, grey A10s, grey. I just like grey, 50 Shades of Grey. And actually, I'd seen a picture of a stallion, a sea stallion, on Elite Model Productions, which is a Facebook group that I run. Elite Model Productions. Go and have a look for it. where we just allow, you know, some really, really quality stuff on there. And about 3 weeks since, this guy's posted this sea stallion, and fucking hell, it was absolutely mwah. And because obviously, you know, it's like the moons have aligned, aren't they? I've seen that. I've dropped an helicopter, and it's got to, I don't want to replicate it because he's done that, but I do want to get as close as I possibly can because it looks absolutely phenomenal. Go and have a look at it. Facebook Elite Model Productions. That's why I went with grey. I digress. So G-Bird didn't have the side pieces on it, and I called it armament on first video. It's not the fuel tanks. And I wanted the fuel tanks on because, again, if it's in the box, it's going on. So it's actually a GS kit. It's a GS style helicopter, but it's got the G rotor blades on it because the GS rotor blades were just like shaft and blade, and they look really, really naff, whereas these ones look really, really cool. So I went with the G. See, again, this is throwing me. I went with the GS version of the engines because the other version is actually, they've called it a G plus GS version. Anyway, engines, very, very simple. You won't have any trouble with them. What would I recommend that? I would recommend, on one respect, I want to say paint them before you attach them. But where the attaching points are, they do need a little bit of work. Not much. It's a couple of minutes, that's all. Just to get rid of the seams where the actual sort of braces fit onto the fuselage side. Now in haste, I fit mine on. And then when it came to painting it, you know, I'm trying to sort of like contort my arms and get into all these. Anyways, do you know what I mean? So you can't really win with that. But engines went on. GS plus version, G plus sod off. Okay. GS version, there's a little bit of a thing that's supposed to go down the outside of the undercarriage fairing. Can you see that little that sort of thing there? I'll hold it up. Sorry. There you go. And that's supposed to go on there, and obviously mine didn't because I'd stuck the fuel tanks on. Now, you see, the thing is that they've sort of contradicted themselves here because I know it's going to be back to front, but that says GS version, and you can see that that little fairing there is attached to that, which is that. So that's your GS version. Right, so if you want the side pods on with the fuel tanks, that must be a G version. No, because down here, right, if you have a look at that, that also says GS version, and it's showing you all that. Make your chuffing mind up, woman, will you? Alright. So I went with the side attachments and the fuel tanks. If it's in the box, it's going on. Okay. Stage 38, we're adding some little antenna and aerials and stuff underneath, which obviously I left off because where they going? Carpet. And 39 were exactly the same, little bits of attachments. 40 attachments right at the front, all these sort of tiny little things up, and again I'm going to start, or if I haven't already, popping some pictures up. 41 what's same, 42 what's same, 43 is adding this little box thing up here, little box thing. I bet all your helicopter boys now are going, it's not a little box thing. Okay. Whatever it is. 44 attachments, 45. When I say attachments, right, I'm talking about, look, attachments. Look where my finger is here, attachments. And attachments, you know, sometimes they drop off. Now, the ones that actually had got a really good point, they went on because I needed them on for paint job. 46 was your rear rotor, 47 was that. 48 was choosing which blades you wanted. 49 is sticking that on, and then you were up to 50 then, just basically for your decal call out, weren't you? And that was it. Do you know what? 128 parts, right? And it literally took no building at all. It was such a lovely kit to build. Everything went together absolutely spot on. Just that front canopy, if that front canopy had just been a little bit more lush, I think I'd have actually fallen in love with this kit. Now, as usual, you know, I sort of say, I'll take them off. I hate having to be a spectacle wearer, I really do. I'll say, can I correct the kit? Yes, I can. Let's start at the very basic, Mr. Revell. Your instruction book is shit. Let's be absolutely honest. G version, GS version, or a GS Plus version. And I've just shown you a couple of minutes since two different variants. No, two different attachments that are actually for the same version, the GS version. So number one, correct the kit. Let's get that instruction book something like. And again, if you have got the kit and you're thinking, regardless of what Mark says, right, I still want to have a bash because it turns out alright. I can't even say to you, make your mind up on which version you want to do because they're just like, they're sort of morph into one. Oh my God. Can I correct the kit? Yeah, get your book right. Number two, your front canopy. Just be careful. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. Just be careful. Number three, all that back end went alright. Internals went alright. Ramp's a bit of a chuff bag because it's got two pins that do that. And you know, if you don't put it on straight away, you'll struggle to get it on later. You end up cutting the tab off and then gluing it in position so it don't lift up and down. But who does that? Glazing, side glazing. Alright. Office is what you'd expect from a level 4 or a level 3. But as a throw together, it's literally that's it. It does go together very, very quickly. Okay. So on a kit like this, like I said, the GS version, one were green and one were this crazy whacked out sort of like multicolour scheme that didn't look anything like that, which is another thing that threw me into just doing it grey, apart from the C-Stallion that I'd seen. So a simple kit like this, what it comes down to is the paint job. Okay, so you're thinking, yeah, go on then, I'll build it. How did you paint it? I'll tell you how I painted it. So I got some Tamiya lacquers, which I've been sort of like, oh Mark, you use Tamiya, don't you? I do, mate, yeah. You ought to try Tamiya lacquers, they are. Mwah. And at the time when you're using something and you don't know any different, is good enough. But then when somebody says, oh Mark, you use Tamiya lacquers, don't you? I do, yeah, they are lush. Try this MRP. And I just can't keep saying it often enough. MRP is literally stratospheric paint compared to the next one down, which is the Tamiya lacquer. And I've used a bit of a Taka, Vallejo, Tamiya lacquer. I've definitely used those, apart from the metallics, which it's not included in the sort of court case, is it? But the MRP paint is absolutely lush. So, but the problem with MRP, and this is a standard paint because MRP do a primer in black and it's gorgeous. But I ain't got none. So I primed it in sort of like a mix-up between XF19 or 80, a really light grey, and I added some, I think it's 14, blue, which is like a sky blue. That's because if you remember, the plastic is like the Eurofighter plastic. It's very light in colour, and I needed to see where I've been with colour. Once that were down and that were dry, go to work, come home that night, right, okay, panel lining, you start panel lining, and again, the sea stallion that I'd seen, he'd done it in a certain way, and I could see that, sort of like pinch to zoom on your phone, and you're looking at what he's done, what this guy's done. I'm thinking, I know how he's done that, that's what I need to do. And again, when it came down to primer stage and panel lining stage, I'm trying to replicate that because it's absolutely singing to me. So I did that, and then it was, right, here we go, it's definite choice time on paint. But I wanted a really dark grey, because I wanted the bird to be as dark as I possibly could in a grey where you can still see detail. But unfortunately, I did not have the right tone of grey. All these grey birds that I've painted, and I didn't have the right tone. Now, what I could have done was just added a bit of black to the darkest grey that I got and gone with that. But again, I don't need to do that because I've got such a fantastic network of people down at club and my personal friends, and one of them in particular, Mark Liddell, who I've not known very long, came up trumps, and I'm talking to Mark and I need this grey and one thing and another. So, I've got a varied selection of greys, mate, you know, tell me what you want and I'll see if I've got it. And he's up in his cave and he's sort of like, I've got this. No, mate, I've got this. Oh, I've got this. Yeah, that's the one, that's the one. So Mark brought his 3 selection of greys down to club, which I quickly whipped out of his hand. I owe you, mate. I won't forget. So did the bird in that, in the grey. Now, again, a lot of artistry comes on the paint job that you do, because trying to make a 20 quid, 128 part, level 4 dinosaur of a kit pop, you need to have the skill. You need to have the skill on the airbrush, and not just the method and the technique, but you also have to have it in here about being able to do certain things with different colours and different tones. Now, me and Paul Patton, that's another shout, me and Paul were talking with Doug Tuck down at club on Saturday, and one of the things that I mentioned was it's about being brave on modelling. Drink of tea, bear with me. What do you mean being brave on modelling? There's an old saying that I learned 20 years ago. I'm 51. And it's sort of, there's certain things in your life that will stay with you forever. Okay, and one of these things was this. If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you always got. That's right, isn't it? So being brave in modelling is getting that base colour down, but then being brave enough to go, I know I've just spent the last 30 hours doing this, but I want to try and add some tone. I want to try and add some variation to this. I've got a slightly darker grey, a slightly lighter grey. I've got greys that I can add white to, I can add black to, I can add, you know, a little bit of tan to, and just something to sort of like mix it up. And it's about being brave, because at the end of the day, last thing you want to be doing is bollocksing up a paint job that you're quite proud of and you're thinking, yeah, that's all right, and then not knowing what you're doing. And that's where the brave part comes in, okay? But on the one hand, he's here going, you've got to be brave. And you've got to be brave. On other one, I've got, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. He's safe and secure because he knows that I've painted the bird grey and it's absolutely fine. Whereas this guy over here is saying, shut the goat, mate, right? It's about having a go, and if you bollocks it up, you bollocks it up. I'm not saying to you, I'm not suggesting for a minute that you go out and buy a £150 kit and bring that to the fore and start playing with different tones and different variations of paint. Let's keep it absolutely real. If you've got a little 1 in 72 bird or half a fuselage side or an old Vulcan wing or something like that, obviously practice, right? It's practice. I don't just go, oh, I'm going to do this tonight, you know, and just start lathering shit down. I've got bits of plastic all over that have got more tones of grey and brown and cream and tan and green, every sort of colour that you can imagine. And what I'm doing is I'm playing with tones and variations. So the base colour that I used was grey. I think it were a 93, MRP 93, but very close to that we've got an MRP 114. And I started to lay a little bit of that on, and just sort of, because it's so thin, it goes on absolutely lush. And especially if you distance and get that pressure turned right down, I'm talking 5 psi, you'll get that pressure turned right down, get the right distance, and it's, but when you're painting with it doesn't it doesn't saturate what you've done. I am going to have to do a video of this, I know I am, just to show you. SMS is the same, I do believe. I'm itching like chuffed and eat. And what that paint does is it allows the underwork that you've done to show through so much to the point that you're in control, right? And that's a massive thing, because if you're painting with a Vallejo or a Tamiya, and even a Tamiya lacquer, you are in control, but you are definitely not in control as much as what you would be if you used an MRP, and that is a fact. Okay, I'm the odd to start sponsoring these MRP boys. I never show up about it. Okay, anyway, I digress. It allows the work to show through, and I'm varying my different tones of grey. All my seams are gone, I've sanded those out. They look absolutely perfect. There's not a seam line on this bird at all, apart from that little bit on belly. The rotor blades I've painted in black, with an MRP black, because Marky Mark brought me a bottle of that. But then what I've done is, once I've glossed, decaled, matte coated, I've got some oils. I'm sort of like leaping, quantum leaping now. I've got some oils and I've dabbed them onto the front of the rotor blades, and I've got some Humbrol enamel thinner, and I would not use anything else. It's a very non-aggressive thinner, and obviously I've just streaked it in the sort of like line of air direction, if you will. And then again, once I've got all the painting done, glossed it with my Alclad 600. I'm looking over there and I'm looking over there because that's where all my paints are. Glossed it with that, stuck my decals on. Let's talk about the decals. We're going backwards again. All right, not bad. All right, not bad. Now, down the side of the fuselage, you've got your big cross and your two numbers. I've gone for an 8503, and obviously the backing paper on it is enormous. Cut them out. Cut your Maltese cross out. Cut your numbers out if you can, because that backing paper, for me, it has shown through a little bit. I don't know if you can see it down that side or not. You probably can't see. You can see where I'm talking about here with number. I don't know until I watch this video back whether you can actually see a tiny little bit of reflection on the backing paper, even though I sold and setted it. Fast forward, dotting the oils on. I've definitely got a picture of that. I'll pop that up here, and that is, you know, I use the Downy, Roni Downy oils from the range. I don't use the Arbleting things. Oils as far as I'm concerned. Little bit of cardboard, dab it on. I mix the greys. I put white and grey, white and black. Cocktail stick, mixed it up, let all the linseed come out of it like you do, and then once you're dotting and dabbing, and basically on every single panel, especially down the sides and across the top, it were a little bit of black, a little bit of grey, and then a little bit of white. It was like a little sandwich. And then with the Umbral enamel thinner and a clean brush, dip it into the thinner, dip it onto your kitchen towel to get rid of the excess, and literally just start blending in. Even though Umbral enamel thinner is not really aggressive at all, you still have got to be very, very careful, okay? If you overdo it, you're going to eat through your gloss, through your matte, through your gloss, your matte, your gloss, your paint and your primer, and you're gonna go down to bare plastic. So be careful, and I'm not trying to frighten you. I have to do it, right? Somebody has to go first. Somebody went first, and I obviously just copied them. I didn't fall out of my mother's womb with a bottle of enamel thinner in my hand thinking, here we go, buff, buff. I watch, like you watch me, I watch other people, and I've seen other people do it, and I think I'm going to have a go at that. And as long as you're very, very careful and wipe off that excess, you're good to go, alright? I did add a couple of ad hoc decals. So, round about here, I don't know if you're watching this on a 60-inch, you might be able to see. If you're watching it on your phone, you might have to pause it and zoom in, but I will put some still shots up. I have got some train graffiti decals that I've used across many of my tornadoes and many of my other builds, and I just do like to zhuzh it up a little bit. Unfortunately, I can't be a methodical builder. I just can't do it. No matter how many times I think, stick to the plan. I stick to the plan, and then all of a sudden, you know, I'm doing something in pink. So I've got an OMG, an oh my god, and a little bit of a skull piece going off here. And I think I've also got one up at back end as well. Can I correct the kit? I've done that. Would I build it again? I would actually. Yeah. Now, if I went to the shop, if I looked on eBay and it said, oh, it's 45 quid, oh, bollocks to that. No. No. If I could find one for 20, 25 quid, I would definitely build it again. I thought it was alright. It literally just goes together very, very simply. Like I say, it's all down to paint job. Your weathering skill, your weathering technique, using weathering powders and oils. I think I've even got some Flory wash sort of dabbed on there and streaked down for some rain effect. I've even got that. But before all that, I did matte coat it. I'm just trying to look over there for my matte. What matte? I use Mr. Lucky Ultra Matte. Turn the pressure back up, 12, 15 psi. Psh, beautiful. Okay. That's what I use for that. So that's the box art. And that's how it turned out. And hopefully, how long have I been going now? 40. Hang on. I'm getting old. 42 minutes. I've kept you long enough. That's the box art. That's how I sort of replicated. That's how I did this particular kit. And that rotor mechanism and all, absolutely smooth as silk. Look at that. That's beautiful, is that? Not flat tail rotor. Okay. Oh, and there's a boom with it as well. There's a refueling bomb. That was another piece that was blacked out, and I just thought, you know what, clip, sand it down, glue it, stick it on, beautiful. Makes it look like a bit of a finished part. I don't want to bring it too close because you'll come out of shot. So would I build it again? Yes, I would. Would I do it in the same colour scheme? No, definitely not. I'd probably, I'd crank it up a notch. But now I know what I'm doing on a cheap kit, on a 20 quid cheap kit. Next time, obviously I'd do something with it a little bit different. But it's a big old piece. It's nice. Nice big old piece. Sits well in your hand. Lovely and chunky. And, yeah, it's done alright. Okay. If you've got it in your stash, or you've got it in your basket on eBay, Amazon, wherever, and you think, yeah, I fancy a bash at that, recommended. Okay, can't go wrong, as long as you haven't paid over odds for it. Few fitting parts, but no, that a good model I can't sort of get their head round. Okay, and that'll do for that. What's on the bench next? I've absolutely no idea. I'm still waiting for the middle of October to get the decals for the Phantom, and then I have got another Tamiya Lancaster. I'm looking up there. But I have got a little tornado I could possibly do. The one thing that's really cranking me is that now I've built this, which is large scale, Phantom F4 large scale, Tornado GR4 large scale, Phantom large scale, I'm sort of getting sucked into this 1 in 48 now not being big enough, even though that's a 48. And I'm gearing more in my head to go for up to the 32s. But obviously I'll just have to wait and see. Okay, that'll do for now. Hope you've enjoyed. Stay safe, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.